Thank you.
For its part, North Korea is once again trying to justify its nuclear development as a necessary defense from a growing American threat. Pyongyang state-run media released a foreign ministry statement blaming the U.S. for injecting what it called astronomical amounts of money to modernize its nuclear weapons. It also criticized Japan, saying it's stockpiling plutonium and looking for an opportunity to build nuclear arms. Japan uses plutonium to fuel its nuclear power plants. The North's statement comes as Japan is about to chair a UN Security Council ministerial meeting on Friday about the North's nuclear and missile programs.
The United Nations official who visited North Korea last week said he suggested Pyongyang resume dialogue with Seoul and participate in 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. In an interview with New York-based South Korean reporters on Thursday, the UN's Undersecretary General for Political Affairs Jeffrey Feltman said he told the North that the two Koreas and their military authorities need to resume talks to solve the nuclear issue peacefully and diplomatically.
One is a restart or initiation of the type of military-to-military and intra-Korean channels that can reduce risk.
How the North reacted is not known, but he said Pyongyang did not seem to see denuclearization as a realistic option. He said he also suggested competing at the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics as a way to shift the direction of the current situation, but can't predict whether the North will participate.
I hope that they will take some of the ideas that we put on the table and pursue them, including participation in the Olympics.
Feltman said Pyongyang authorities listened very attentively to his suggestions, noting them down and asking questions. Also speaking to CNN on Thursday, Feltman said he was worried about the lack of communication channels with Pyongyang and that there was a, quote, high risk of some kind of miscalculation that could lead to war. He added that lack of trust has driven the regime to rely on military deterrence in the short term. Feltman was the first senior UN official to visit the North in 6 years. During his 4-day trip, he met with high-level Pyongyang officials, including Foreign Minister Lee Yong-ho.
Japan's defense minister says the two discussed China's activities in the South China Sea. Beijing has been building runways and radar facilities on man-made islands in disputed waters there. Onodera stressed the importance of maintaining free and open waters in the Indo-Pacific. The British Defense Secretary said his country is committed to protecting freedom of navigation. He spoke of Britain's plans to send its new aircraft carrier, Queen Elizabeth, to the Asia-Pacific.
In other news, the White House has announced that President Donald Trump spoke with his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, on the phone Thursday to discuss North Korea. In a brief statement, the two are said to have discussed working together to resolve the very dangerous situation in North Korea. The Kremlin also confirmed the call, saying the two discussed the situation in several crisis zones, with a focus on solving the nuclear issue on the Korean peninsula. Earlier Thursday, Putin criticized the U.S. during his annual end-of-the-year press conference, saying its actions on North Korea were provocative and counterproductive.
On Friday, cabinet ministers approved a decision to freeze the assets of 19 entities. They include shipping companies, trading firms, and banks based in North Korea. The asset freeze now covers a total of 103 organizations and 108 individuals. A top government spokesperson pointed to Pyongyang's weapons program and another issue important to Japan. Japan's government says at least 17 citizens were abducted to North Korea during the 1970s and 80s. 5 were returned in 2002, but most remain unaccounted for.
Japan will continue to urge the North to take action to resolve issues, including its nuclear and missile development and its abduction of Japanese citizens.
Last month, North Korea tested what it said was a new type of intercontinental ballistic missile that could reach the U.S. mainland. Japan's foreign minister is chairing a UN Security Council ministerial meeting on North Korea later in the day. He is expected to call on member countries to strengthen pressure on North Korea.
Frankly, the people that were questioning that statement, was it too tough? Maybe it wasn't tough enough. North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen.
Now, when asked what could be tougher than fire and fury, Trump gave the sinister response of "you'll see," leaving everyone frightened that physical action could be the next step in this war of words. Trump also warned Pyongyang that they'd be sorry if they even considered attacking the U.S. or any of its allies.
If North Korea does anything in terms of even thinking about attack of anybody that we love or we represent or our allies or us, they can be very, very nervous. I'll tell you what, and they should be very nervous because things will happen to them like they never thought possible. North Korea better get their act together or they're going to be in trouble like few nations ever have been in trouble.
Now, such statements as these coming from the president have been slammed by a number of American senators who see them as reckless, causing significantly more harm than good.
President Trump is not helping the situation with his bombastic comments.
We need to be firm and deliberate with North Korea, but reckless rhetoric is not a strategy to keep America safe.
I think it was just the wrong message and elevated the situation rather than showing the international community that there is hope for a diplomatic solution.
Unfortunately, it is unlikely that those words will affect Trump's rhetoric, however, meaning the possibility of a democratic resolution is slipping away, seemingly pushing the world closer and closer to the edge of war.
North Korea, in its turn, slammed Trump's comments as being nonsense, and it went on to say that no serious dialogue is possible with the president, who it described as being a guy bereft of reason. Earlier, Pyongyang claimed that it was preparing plans to fire 4 missiles near the US Pacific territory of Guam. We spoke to a former US ambassador to the United Nations. He says that such threats put Trump on the same level as North Korea's leader.
I don't see the plus in these threats. Where are we getting something in return from these president's threats? I don't see it. I've never seen the tension so high in the Korean Peninsula. I'm extremely concerned. I hope the president's advisors rein him in. General Kelly, you know, the new chief of staff, he's got to tell the president, you can't conduct foreign policy the way you're doing, with words, with fiery words, exchanges stooping to the level of Kim Jong-un and the North Koreans, who generate this rhetoric almost every day. But this rhetoric has gotten a lot more intense also from the North Korean side.
Sergei Lavrov has said that nothing can be decided through war and that in the case of North Korea, a potential military conflict can be enormously dangerous. The Russian foreign minister here was referring to the statements by the U.S. Secretary of Defense. Just to remind you, we heard Mr. Mattis warning Pyongyang against the actions that could, quote, lead to the destruction of its people. So it was a part of a warning, yet he still said these words out loud, a destruction of a nation. So things are getting as serious as they can ever get. Now, in the meantime, some of America's main allies in Europe, the likes of the UK and Germany, they're calling on the American president to de-escalate the tensions. And Angela Merkel once again stressed the urgent importance of a diplomatic solution in this conflict.
The escalation in rhetoric certainly does not solve the problem. I don't see the solution to the conflict right now. I don't think the escalation in rhetoric is the right approach.
Donald Trump has ratcheted up his rhetoric against the leader of North Korea after the regime's latest threat of a missile strike near a U.S. territory in the Asia region. The president sent the following warning to Kim Jong-un.
And if he utters one threat, or if he does anything with respect to Guam or any place else that's an American territory or an American ally, he will truly regret it, and he will regret it fast.
Trump tweeted the U.S. Army is locked and loaded against the secretive East Asian state. It's the latest in a long line of rhetoric from the American leader.
North Korea best not make any more threats to the United States. They will be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen. The people that were questioning that statement, was it too tough? Maybe it wasn't tough enough. It's not a dare. It's a statement. It has nothing to do with dare. That's a statement.
While it's still a war of words for now, Western media report the Pentagon has plans for a preemptive strike on North Korea's nuclear facilities. But that's raising fears across the border in Seoul, as Ilya Petrenko explains.
Parallel. For decades, North Korea has been prepping artillery for that very moment. And now what they got loaded and ready